Cinefilos Transeúntes, un podcast de Pablo Rodríguez y Ezequiel Vigo.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of your granny's favorite podcast. Your host, Pablo and Ezekiel, and today we have a fresh person, Mr. Max. Fresh person.
Well, this fresh person goes by the name of Max, and we'll let him introduce himself. So, how you doing, Max? You excited to talk about this show?
Good.
What are your opinions on it? Because we let Michael rant about Avatar on his first appeal. Go.
Yeah. Well,
Give
honestly,
us your opinion. That's what we want.
I loved it. I loved The Last of Us. I thought it was really nice. And the only complaint I had was that it wasn't longer and that there weren't more episodes. After I watched the first 2 episodes, I started another zombie show called Black Summer. And that really showed how good The Last of Us really was, because Black Summer was fucking ass. It was really bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Comparative greatness.
Yeah, I still had just like a craving for like some zombie action, but it's just not the same, really.
Yeah. Couldn't get enough.
And the last episode,
And did you play the game?
was also very good. No, I didn't play the game. No, I didn't know about it.
That's
but I
it.
didn't.
No, you should have.
Well, I think that's
The
going to
game
be
is
interesting.
fucking good.
But we have the perspective.
Oh, yeah,
of someone that hasn't played. I think
You're
it's
the
gonna
only
be
one out of the
interesting.
group who hasn't watched the game, so we get one
yeah.
more perspective. Better for the
what we're
focus group.
Yeah.
I did.
Definitely.
All right.
All right, so what was the...
I did watch it with someone who played the game.
We got a bit of a delay, so we're like talking over each other.
Go on. What would you say, Max?
I was going to say if... Or Max, go on.
No, I just wanted to say that I was watching it with someone who played the game. So like every like scene, she was like, "This is like exactly how it was in the game. This is exactly how it was in the game." So but I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know.
It's good that you're in suspense. I would love to be watching this show with some suspense. But unfortunately, I know everything that happens. Although, speaking of changes from the game, this episode was pretty much an entire episode that was different from the game, in its entirety. Mostly because one of the main characters, Frank, doesn't even exist in the game. So I would like to take this opportunity to ask all of you what was a sort of general consensus of the episode, starting with Michael.
Wait, did Frank not exist in the game? I feel like I saw something saying that Frank existed, but the ending was just completely different. I think Frank was supposed to run away in the game. He's like,
There's no
"I can't
Frank in the
stand it
game.
here."
There's Bill in the game.
Who is it then? Because someone's with Bill.
It's just Bill.
Just Bill myself.
Like, we don't meet any Frank in the game.
I could have sworn I saw something about that, but overall, I feel like, yes, they stayed true to the whole idea of like who Bill is, and like the whole hunkering down and being a survivalist and waiting for the end of the world type thing. They dealt with that really well. And even though I guess like Frank doesn't exist in the game, I still think that he has a lot to portray and to represent in terms of like what a relationship is like in that situation, because you would expect people who come across in the middle of nowhere to just kind of kill each other. But the whole time I was kind of saying like, man, just kill Frank. Like it's some stranger in a hole in the ground. This guy doesn't need to be eating like a filet mignon at your dinner table. And then he happens to be gay. Like awfully suspicious. But I thought they did a really good job overall. With how they,
suspicious of the
brought
gays.
that in.
Well, Michael. Wow. No, but
No, not suspicious. I was just like,
Pablo, let me just say
End of
this.
the world?
Do not spend this podcast trying to set us up. I know what you're doing.
No,
Don't
I'm
be
not
trying to
setting
set
it
us
man,
up.
no one here has any issues.
No,
We're just
no,
I
saying
see
it's
right
like
through you.
Awfully. Well, because people also complaining that it was like, oh man, like wow, they had to make the show woke. But at the same time, I feel like it's pretty
how on earth is
believable
it
that
woke?
if you're trying to survive, like you wouldn't just be gay just so this guy doesn't kill you and you get to eat free dinner every night.
Nah, but this guy was clearly gay. Like he was.
I mean, honestly,
was gay.
like Frank was never going to pretend to be gay to survive, because if Frank wasn't gay himself, he would have never realized that Bill was a closeted gay. There's no way, because Bill, to a straight man, looks like the straightest man on earth. Like, let's be honest. right?
100%.
Also
Straightest
the
gay
acting
man
choice.
in all of media. Let's just put
That
that
was a
down. Let's
pretty
just give him
straight
that award.
mustache.
Yeah.
Very
We-
straight
well,
guy. Very,
actually,
very
I
straight
also-
clothes, very straight face, everything.
It's
that's
going
also
down
because he
like
was
a
a
dark,
libertarian.
windy road if we don't pull ourselves out quick.
What? What?
Go on, Max.
Like the thing is, like Bill was a libertarian, you know, as a survivalist. Like gays in the media are never portrayed as that, you know. And I actually really like this episode because I think I haven't seen that many like movies or shows portraying gay relationships. Like there's not that much out there.
Yeah.
But like, in my opinion, this has been the best representation of a homosexual relationship on TV because it wasn't like overly sexualized. It was just a relationship. Like it was the same. It could have also been a straight relationship and would have been portrayed the same. They didn't change anything because it was a gay relationship, and I really like that because like
It was
now
just
when you
love.
think of
That's
a
what came
movie-
across.
Yeah, it was just love,
definitely.
exactly. And if you think of like Brokeback Mountain, for example, it's like this super hyper masculine kind of like homosexual relationship, which is like it's okay to portray that, but it's nice that now it's just completely normalized and they didn't like pan away like when they were gonna kiss or something, and because they also wouldn't do that for a straight couple, you know. I really
Yeah,
like
It
that.
wasn't like I feel like homosexual relationships in movies are always like one on two ends. It's either like they tell the story as if it's super taboo, or they make it
Yeah.
overly sexual and overly promiscuous
Yeah,
to the point where
exactly.
like straight people are watching and get a bit uncomfortable. This was not that kind of story. This was straight up just a love story, a good love story, painted out really well. And I agree with you that I haven't seen that many like homosexual relationships on movies, on like shows and stuff, but this was definitely the best one by far. Just because it wasn't a homosexual story, it was just a good story. It didn't make you like feel weird or anything. Like it was just. Plus the actors were incredible and everything. You know, had me like on the verge of tears, got you all emotional and everything. It was just a great
Yeah,
storytelling, man.
The
I
facial
did have
gestures
one
were
complaint
incredible.
though, and this has nothing to do with like the gay aspect. You know when the raiders come and they start like attacking a little town,
Yeah.
you see Bill just walk out onto the street with a shotgun, just like not
Oh, yeah.
protected at all, and he's just standing in the middle of the street. You know, like
It's
why?
just-
like you've got a fence, you've got a flamethrower, you've got a
Mr.
gun,
Tactical,
you've got a bunch of guns.
just standing like this.
I mean, we can't see you right now, but yeah, I'm assuming he's standing like in the middle of the room.
Squatted
Well, but I
on a
think-
half squat, just in the middle of the road. Mr. Survivalist.
But I think it's not that out of character, since what we see is that he's very cold, he's very prepared for the apocalypse. But there's a very significant quote from him in which he says, "I was never scared until I met you." And from that moment, he starts becoming more first of all aware of just his relationship. He wants to like look after him, but he also becomes he makes more mistakes just because he's acting on his own. He probably rushed out just to protect his partner, so he probably wasn't as careful as he was on that very first scene of the chapter, in which he's hiding away from the military and just hiding in his bunker. He has more things to look after now, so I think it's acceptable that he makes that mistake in a way, because one thing I really liked that we talked about is in the other chapters we said that the first chapter especially felt like a movie on its own. This is the best chapter for that. This was definitely a movie. This could go
This
to
is
the
a straight up
Oscars
movie.
as a short movie.
The way it was
Yeah.
structured, like the story arc and everything, it had everything that a like a complete independent story would have. It had a beginning, it had the character arcs, it had the conflict, it had the resolution, it had everything. Like as an independent movie, this would have been great, especially because the characters are contained within this episode, similar to how it would be in a movie. And like you said, also one thing that I'd like to mention on what you were saying about how he was scared because of him and he was vulnerable because of him. It's very subtle, but throughout the episode, you see that every single time that Frank wants something, Bill ends up making some sort of sacrifice to provide it for him. When he's like, I'm going to stay a few days, the next cut, they're already a couple and they're quarreling. They're quarreling about painting the houses. Next cut, they're having people over. You know, like, it's just, if you think about it, he's continually, what he's doing is a guy who looked ready to be completely alone during this apocalypse, to just care for no one but himself, stock up with everything, his guns, his filet mignon, his TV, everything. He was set up to be the boldest lonely man on earth, is suddenly doing nothing but making sacrifices for this guy. It's crazy, like how big a switch they showed us of this character in just one episode. Like within the space of 10 minutes, they were showing us like the massive range of Bill, which I thought was fucking good, man.
Well, I feel like the general motif of the entire show is family. In the end of the day, you know, it's Joel
Protecting
with Ellie,
others.
Joel with Tess, you know, like Joel losing his daughter, like going to find Tommy, Bill and Frank. Everyone's kind of got like a pair. I'm blanking on the name of what's the name of the lady who gave Ellie
Tess?
to Joel?
Oh,
No,
sorry.
No,
Tess.
the Firefly leader.
But yeah,
I've
her.
played the game a few times.
Exactly,
The
yeah,
one
like
that's
the
part of the
Firefly.
Fireflies. Yeah.
Firefly? Yeah, Firefly lady. She had the pair, you know, like the girl who got her ear shot off. Everyone kind of has a pair in terms of, you know, like caring for someone else more than just the individual. I think that's the general motif just throughout the show.
Yeah, I think it's also like
Yeah, I agree with that.
that theme also is builds onto the idea of like compromise, because that's a part of the show. Joel doesn't want to pick up responsibilities, but he has to, and then we see it here. This guy he's set up for life. He has his own trench. He has sustainable food. He has the trap set up, but he allows himself to complicate his life because he wants to share it with this other person he randomly meets in a hole, which is like, I guess people wait all their life to just run into someone. You don't even have to run into someone. He'll fall into your trap, I guess, in a post-apocalyptic world, which I guess is more romantic in a way. They did very weird romantic things in this episode, but that's love, I guess.
It was a very romantic episode. I think that the romanticism was definitely. I mean, you're waiting for your perfect partner to fall out of the sky, and instead they're just like sitting at the bottom of a
In the
hole.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there's something poetic as well about the fact that Bill found Frank in the hole. Kind of like, you know, he was already dead before he found him. So then in letting him into his house, like Bill's house, he knew that he was going to have to make a sacrifice in terms of letting him survive.
Oh yeah,
But you can tell even those.
I mean, I don't know,
But
just a
also-
long shot, but I thought,
I also really
Yeah,
like that in this letter that Bill wrote at the end, he talks about, you know, you can have all my guns and use them to protect Tess like I protected Frank, and like he's painting this whole picture. And of course, Tess is dead, but Bill didn't know that. But it kind of sets up the show, like the next episodes, that Joel and this girl, right? That is his new purpose now, to protect her. That's his purpose.
Yeah.
and that's the
Eddie,
show.
exactly.
I mean, that's the show.
well, yeah.
That's the
I
game,
mean,
and that's the
add
show.
To add to that, did anyone else realize at the end of the episode, when you see Ellie and Joel drive off in the truck, it kind of pans out and it shows you that it's like a view from a window. That's like the same sort of window that you see in the beginning of the main menu of the game.
Is it?
So it's kind of like, you know, we've had the 3 stories. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. Like, next
Yeah,
to the page,
yeah.
there's a window,
It's the
right?
same. It's the same window.
So
it's the
like
loading screen.
These first 3 episodes, it's kind of like the prologue, and now that's these 3 episodes are done. It's like, okay, this is where the game starts. This is like where the story starts to become like present rather than like foreshadowing. You know,
One
like,
hell of a
looking back in
prologue.
retrospect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really like.
not bad, huh? Not bad.
I really think, building on that, I think that they treat the fans of the game so well in this show. Because and I don't want to get into the people who just have a thing against each chapter because it's a homosexual relationship, but some people just have a thing against it. And they went, well, we don't care. This is still a very good adaptation. And at the end of the day, as a candy treat, they just show us Ellie in the game outfit. And it's like, this is still a good adaptation. The things we're doing are justified. We're doing them for the sake of world building and to
As
make
a little candy treat to all the grown ass Ellie fans
all the
sitting at home like.
grown-ass men crying over men kissing in a TV show, just ranting about it on social
Yeah,
media.
and I
All
mean,
those
at the end of
all
the
those
episode,
survivalists. All those Southern survivalists sitting at home prepping their nitrous and all their little supplies, being like, "What I do isn't gay."
It's like making out with another man for survival isn't gay. It would be gay if you didn't.
Also, they lay out little clues, like when they're about to reveal that that he's a closeted gay, like little things. And one of the things I realized is that Frank responds to every cue. Like every time he mentions something that he thinks might be related to him being in a closet, he's like, "Oh, you do." Like, and the one that I don't like, right, is when he's serving the wine, and he's like, "A real man knows how to pair wine," and he's like, "Yeah, I know. I don't look at the time." He's like, "Yeah, you do." Like the subtext is he's telling him like, "Yeah, obviously you're gay." But what's wrong with pairing wine, bro? What's wrong with knowing how to cook and knowing how to pair your wines? I don't think that's gay.
Well,
I
maybe in
think it's just
America, it is.
stereotyping and like raising awareness that like.
But that's the point, right?
Well,
the point, like
the
I
whole
think at that
episode
point,
is that.
at that point, the audience is not supposed to know yet that Bill is gay. I mean, at that point, I didn't realize, like that was the first kind of point where I was like, "Oh, is there like tension?" And then like after the piano,
for me it was the hair flick. No, for me it was when he did like this. When he was getting like the whole vibe was obviously like nervous, kind of like how you would be on a date, but extra tension. And then when he's like sitting like this and he does like this with his hair, I'm like, this guy's gay, bro. This guy is very nervous for some reason other than because it's not the same kind of nervous of like obviously he's got a dude in his house. He's got a dude in his house and he's a survivalist. Like, obviously, that's nerve-wracking. But it wasn't that kind of nervous. It was like a vulnerable kind of nervous, like a little shy schoolgirl kind of nervous. He was like...
Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, he was alone for like, how many years did they say? I feel like it was either 3 years, 7 years, or 10 years. But any amount of time where you're just by yourself, you're going to be like a kid again anytime that you, like, interact with someone. So I feel like they did a pretty good job at representing, not only the fact that, oh my god, like I'm alone, but then there's also this dude who happens to also be gay, like falls in my lap. It's not just being scared, but also like nervous because that's the first person that you've been able to interact with and so on.
Yeah, the anticipation is killing him as well, I guess. But it's his facial expressions
exactly
throughout the whole episode are just unmatched. They're so revealing.
Such a good actor, man.
Just with Joel when he's there, like
both of them.
Yeah, just the complicity they have and how they look at each other and how they let each other know that they can understand each other. It's those subtle gestures are like they deserve like recognition for that actor. He was so good in just an hour. He just created a whole character, made a lot of body gestures and like mannerisms that were only believable because of the character he was building. And by the end of the episode, he's dead. He's gone. And we're like, wow, what a great character. It's such a full circle moment. Everything in the chapter is so well contained.
Also, like going back to their faces and like their looks and everything, for me, what really sold it is that in general, I mean, the camera work in this show so far has been really, really good, right? But also the fact what they've done exceptionally well in terms of camera work in this show is knowing when to do a close up of these guys. Both actors, both Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, when they do close ups of them, like the way they show emotion is just incredible. Especially Nick Offerman, that scene where where Frank's telling him that he's decided that he's gonna. That it's his last day. When he's that macho man, like with his like holding back his sob, to me was some of the best acting I've ever seen, for sure. Like that was so good.
Also, actors, I just looked
incredible
it up.
Job.
I just looked it up, and Frank was in the game. The ending to his story was just that he ran away, so I was right.
Oh, really? No way.
Apparently. Yeah, I'll send you the link later on, but there's like a screenshot of a note in the game. You know how you can like find these notes that people leave lying around? It's basically saying, it's like, oh man, I'm so sick and tired of being here. I'd rather run out of like the little town and devoured by zombies and spending another day with you. That's how badly I want to get out.
Oh wow.
So
Were
I feel
they
like that
were they
definitely
gay as
changes
well
things.
though?
I don't think they were gay. I think it was more just like, you know,
They were just
co-survival,
buddies.
coexistence. Yeah.
Because Bill in the game, one of the first like funny interactions between Ellie and Joel is that when they're chilling at Bill's, Ellie steals some porn magazines because this guy's got a hella porn magazines, and she shows them to Joel like, "Hey, what's this?" And Joel's like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
And it's like the first
In the
funny
game.
moment they have together. Yeah, in the
In
game,
the game? Oh, okay,
not in the
yeah.
show.
I was about to say that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I think also one thing that I really enjoyed about the whole chapter is that Joe sort of like we've always seen his PTSD already. We've seen how he's holding back. He doesn't want to take responsibilities. But in this show, he's so cold when all about Tess and how he's been dealing with it. But in this chapter, they let us know that they've been together for at least like a decade. I don't remember exactly the dates that they say in the episode, but I think it's around 14 or 16 years that they've been together since they were already having lunch, like 10 or 12 years before that happened at Bill's and Frank's house. So I thought that was a bit, if you paid attention to it, it was a bit more heartbreaking, even for the poor Joe, which we're going to see him suffer even more along the show, but he's in for the ride, I guess.
To me, also that the fact that they were together for like 10 or so odd years, and at the end, Tess is like, "I never asked anything from you," like obviously emphasizing on the fact that Joel never wanted to formalize their relationship, even though they were together for like a decade. To me, that's crazy. That just shows like the strength of Joel's like willpower to just neglect relationships and just not be in any kind of emotional entanglement after what happened to his daughter, which shows
But it's
Yeah.
also
that like
kind of logical,
this is his
right?
final check
And
moment.
that's-
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like in that kind of scenario, like everybody's fucking dead. Like everybody he's ever known is dead. I think it's pretty natural to have commitment issues at that point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
100%.
who
Yeah.
wouldn't?
When you've seen your
His old buddy Jim, his old buddy Bill had to die and leave him a note, a cynical note for him to realize, like, you know what, man? Like, living without caring about other people is just surviving. And I got a chance to do something good here. This is why I like that they've changed the game, like the game for the show for this episode, because I saw a ridiculous comment that was like, "Oh, they spent an episode on characters that are never going to show up again." No, they spent an episode giving, first of all, an absolute
Context
like
of
train
what
ride,
life was like.
emotional train ride, and then they've also created the perfect golden reckoning moment for Joel to realize how wrong he is to continue living, not caring about anyone and not wanting to help support anyone, not wanting to protect other people. He's learned
What
it
did
from
you
the
guys,
most lonely man in the world.
What did you guys think of the ending? Was it like to Romeo and Juliet, or did you like that?
well, I mean,
Well, I
it's a
think it was
post-apocalyptic-
Romeo and Juliet because it was like a tragic romance, you know, like actual Romeo and Juliet. You know, everything's
honest-
right in the world because, you know, like they finally have the car, they're finally getting on, but in order to get to that point, something tragic had to happen to ensure that reality from like progressing, I suppose.
Man, but to me, it really wasn't tragic. Like, obviously, I got sad, I got emotional because, as you would, because it's the ending of any beautiful story. But to me, it wasn't tragic. To me, it was full circle. Like, this guy had been alone his whole life. He was lucky enough to find someone who he could share the rest of his life with. And like he said, "I'm old, I'm satisfied." And they both got to die together in their bed and warm. How many people in that apocalypse get to do that, man? To me, it wasn't tragic at all. To me, it was, you know, just the ending of the story.
Not tragic in terms of, you know, like they got devoured by the infected. Not that type of tragic. More tragic because you're like, damn, you know, they both were such great actors. The characters were great.
Just want to see more of them.
Portrayed a lot more.
It's tragic for
Exactly,
you,
yeah.
for
Like
the
you want to
audience.
see
or what?
Bill talk to Joel. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
so
have
it's
the
good for
fun-
the story development, but it sucks for the audience.
Sign a waiver to get them their own show. A couple of seasons of just like a sitcom, just like they did like One
Just two
Division for the
dudes.
first few episodes, just a full on sitcom of just Bill and Frank.
Just a
Two
YouTube
dudes, one
series about
apocalypse.
them building like shacks and repairing the shops. I also
Oh,
wanted to
also,
ask.
did anyone else at the end of the episode, when Ellie's reading the note and she goes, "Heh heh 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 heh," did you think of Ron Swanson saying that? Because that's like the first thing that popped into my head.
Did it?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched that much
A little
of it.
bit, yeah.
When everyone died, I was happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, classic Ron.
That was, I mean, Bill was just a great character, man. I love how they built him up. He gave us some very good moments of dialogue as well. When he's like,
Oh,
"Well, in
yeah.
your world, 9/11 was faked, and the government are all Nazis." Like, the government are all Nazis. And to be fair, he's kind of right in that universe, you know. Like
Yeah.
Fedra kind of seemed like Nazis, bro. The way they rounded up the rest of the neighborhood except for Bill, and they just executed them—that's crazy.
It's just like sadly ironic.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's so
they are
fun.
all Nazis.
Also, wanted to take the opportunity since, like my eyes glared up when Max told us he didn't play the game. Where do you think this is going, Max? Well, what do you think? Like, give us some theories or ideas that you might have with what you've watched so far.
Well, you know. Oh God, it's so hard to say. I think Ellie's probably never gonna die. Joel will probably die at the end. That's kind of how I'm feeling. Like Joel will sacrifice himself to make sure Ellie lives. You know, after they build up like a little bit of father-daughter kind of relationship. That's the vibe I'm getting now. What I am curious about is like if we're ever gonna see a cure or not. Like, or if it's just never gonna get to that point.
If I'm to
Or
be
if-
completely
So am
honest,
I can tell you, after playing the games and everything, so am I. I'm still curious.
I think
Okay, so a bit of a spoiler, to be honest. Fuck off.
HBO isn't going to kill. Sorry, HBO isn't going to kill Joel off because the show isn't. You know, like the two characters of the show are Joel and Ellie. That's all it's about in the end of the day. There is no way that once they go into season 2, they're just going to deal with Ellie because half the people are watching for Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, but I don't think that. I don't think that
They're going to drag it
kill
out to
Joel
2
in
seasons to
two.
tell the story of one.
But it's not going to be 2 seasons, bro. They're going to get another season. Let's be honest, right? Like if the
Yeah.
I think with the current
quality.
material, with the current material of the video games, I think I said this last episode. I would say with the first game, they could easily get 2 seasons if they wanted to.
yeah,
And with the second game is even longer. The second game, you could get 2 or 3 seasons. It really depends because I'm struggling to see what rhythm they're trying to hold on this show because we're getting 8 episodes in the first season. So I'm really curious to see if they try to cover the entirety of the first game in this first season. I don't think they will, though. I don't think they
I
will.
don't think so either, man. I think
they'll get a
should
second
ideally,
season.
but they won't. I think they're going to
Because there's also a perfect cutoff point to like in game 1 in the first game. There's a perfect cutoff point to do like 1 season and then continue on the second season. But also, I don't know because it seems like they're advancing pretty quickly. I think they definitely got enough material for like 4 seasons with both games, like 100%. And the safe bet to me would be like 5 seasons because the second game is even longer. The second game, there's a lot more story and there's a lot more going on. And also, definitely going to have to be way higher budget the second game. And they're making a third game thanks to, probably thanks to the popularity of the show, but they're making a third game.
I don't think they can go up in budget, man. Budget of this show is insane. Like, I think it's up there with Game of Thrones. Even
Budget is like a stock, bro. It depends on demand. Like, if the show is getting watched by millions, they'll do like Game of Thrones and they'll throw movie budget on every episode if they need to.
Yeah, but I think they already have movie budget on like every single episode. Like, I think so. Maybe not this last one technically.
Oh, so you mean that you don't think it can get more expensive?
Yeah, I don't think it can. I think it's only gonna be 2 seasons if I'm honest, and I'm talking out of like just what I want to talk out of because I haven't played the second game and I don't even remember how the first game ends. So I'm like just speculating completely. But I think
I think they're definitely going to adapt the second game as well.
Yeah, that's a waste chance if they don't do it, especially with the how appraised this show has been so far.
Yeah, I
I'd be
feel like
surprised.
everyone likes it, no matter who watches it.
And well, I think
It is a good show. I see this show becoming kind of like another Game of Thrones type project for HBO.
Yeah. It has the potential for sure.
And I'm happy for
I
it.
think the next episode is where they're going to start like properly getting into the journey. They're not going to be beating around the bush. They're not going to do side stories. It's just going to be Joel and Ellie in a truck, just like fucking it up on the road, driving out west, just meeting, doing like side missions, side quests, like all the way there.
There's a lot of
Last
action
episodes,
coming up.
It's just going to go down. It's going to be a shootout.
I also
Something's gonna
thought
happen.
Also,
I really enjoyed.
no, go.
I think I really enjoyed how, because we were talking about it on the upcoming episodes, like how are they gonna adapt certain things about the video game? How well will they deal with that? And the thing I like the most is how they dealt with like the whole of looting and picking up like ammunition and everything. It's just like, well, this guy has left us a whole arsenal, so we don't have to deal with this. It's just a video game. Obviously, in a video game, you're gonna have to these mechanics, but this doesn't apply to a TV show. We just give them the guns already.
Yeah.
Because it's all very natural.
Did they-
Exactly.
Did Joel take a lot of the guns, or did he just like take one?
I think
We
only
don't
took
know.
one. Yeah, we don't know actually. Yeah.
Because
We
I would
don't
have
know,
a
though.
big
They
issue
didn't
if he
really
didn't
show
just
us.
take every single gun.
Also, guys, I want to give the 30-minute warning because we've gone over the 30 minutes. I would like to say one last thing though before we move on. If you didn't think this was a good episode for whatever reason, you need to grow up, because Last of Us episode 3 was a banging episode, and I don't see any reason on God's green earth to say it wasn't. And I guess I mean, we're kind of running out of time, so thank you very much, Max. Thank you once again, Michael.
No problem.
And maybe you'll be joining us some more. It would be we've been happy to have you.
We'll be more than happy to have you back.
Yeah, I'll be
Definitely,
down.
your perspectives are more interesting than mine for sure.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, fellas, and I guess we'll be back next week with another incredible episode.
Yeah, and another Spanish
Salud.
movie review
next week.
sometime in the
Peace.
future as well.